Arnold Classic is around the corner and RX Muscle has you covered with previews and analysis from the top minds in bodybuilding and interviews with the top competitors and personalities in the sport. It's RX Muscle's Iron Road to the Arnold, sponsored by SciTech Nutrition, only on rxmuscle.com.
SciTech Nutrition. Premium quality products. State-of-the-art look. Uncompromised ingredient quality. Our products work and taste good. www.scitechnutrition.com.
Welcome back to Live with RX Muscle's Iron Road to the Arnold Classic, brought to you by SciTech Nutrition. Visit scitechnutrition.com. I'm your host, Dave Palumbo, and tonight's guest here is IFBB 212 Pro, Cory Mathews. Welcome.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
You're looking good. You're looking like you're 2 weeks out from the Arnold Classic.
Yeah, I feel like I'm 2 weeks out too.
I see it in your face. You know what? I always look at a bodybuilder's face and I can tell if they're suffering or not. The guys that have the puffy, face and the big smile on their face, those are the guys I know that aren't in shape. But the guys like you that have the sunken cheekbones, those are the guys that are putting the work in the gym, that are suffering with the diet. It's a process. And, at 2 weeks out, no one's a happy camper.
Yeah, this is... this is definitely not the best feeling in the world, but, it's just a part of it's the nature of the beast, it's kind of like what we just, this is what we do. It's the path we choose. And, we understand this part of the suffering and the sacrifice. So, this is, but it's hard.
Cory, you kind of snuck into the pro ranks, as I like to say, under the radar, so to speak, because in 2012, at the NPC Nationals, you placed second in the light heavyweight class. And the guys that place second sometimes don't get the fanfare of the guys who win. But nowadays, the top two at the Nationals turn pro. Once you turn pro, however, you became very successful. Talk to me a little bit about, let's go back to that show in 2012 and tell me how that all played out for you.
That show was actually, it was a bit disappointing for me because I wasn't really satisfied with the second place win. I felt like I really deserved the first place. But, I'm not going to argue with the judges. The person who won the first place, he obviously, they saw something in him. And, they gave him the win. So, I was just blessed enough to be on that stage and, to take my second place win. Earn my pro card, and talking to Ronnie, and I have a very small circle of people that I talk to, but people like Ronnie, they keep me encouraged, and he mentioned to me, because I was actually thinking I didn't want to accept my pro card. I only got second place, and I would have felt a lot better if I would have got first place and even won the overall. But talking to him, he kind of gave me a different perspective on things, and sure enough, just the way he said it, kind of brought a new light. And one thing about it is, no one really remembers how you got it; they just remember what you do with it.
Very, very wise words. Now, it's interesting. The Ronnie you're talking about is 8-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman, who, by the way, you have an uncanny resemblance to. I'm sure a lot of people tell you that. Ronnie in 1991 placed fifth at the Nationals. He was the only guy who volunteered to go to the World Championships, and then he won there. So he got his pro card kind of through a back door as well. No one really knew much about him, and then he just slowly but surely improved and improved and improved. And that's kind of like what you've been doing. Every year you get better and bigger and more impressive. Obviously, you're still coming into your own now. It's got to feel great, knowing that at your age and that you're still improving and getting better at each showing.
Yeah. That's what this sport is all about. It's learning yourself. It's finding, tapping into new potentials. And, I just, I'm really enjoying life right now. I'm really enjoying the way my body is transforming and progressing. And like you say, every year, we want to see some type of progress, some type of gains. And that's what we've been doing, just slowly putting it on. Nothing comes overnight. So we just want to, take one step at a time into that direction.
That maniacal training like Ronnie did back in the day at Metroflex there?
Yeah. Actually, the history behind that, Ronnie and I have been training partners long before I turned pro or long before I even started to compete. So that was always just a part of the way, we all trained. There was Ronnie and there was a couple of other guys that we all just, get in the gym and tear things up together. And, of course, I was like considered the baby of the bunch. That kind of training to us is just natural, normal, just the only way we're supposed to do it, I guess.
And you're still doing it in the same gym, right?
Yeah, in the same gym, yeah.
Now, talk to me a little bit about, why did you and Ronnie have that mesh? What was the thing that kind of connected you? Because everyone kind of connects with someone on a different level. Was it a gym level? Was it a beyond the gym level?
Yeah, it started off on a gym level. It's kind of hard to explain. Ronnie and I are we're like brothers. I mean, I call his mom, and she calls me son, and all his sisters call me baby brother. And, we're like one big family. He has babies, children that they're all about the age of, under 5. And, I have stair steppers as well, and they're all around the same ages. And so, our children, they do everything together. My wife and his wife, they do everything together. We just, we spend family functions together. So initially it started off in the gym, but, it was just like a gym camaraderie. But, it obviously grew into something that was well beyond what we could even think or expect,
I'm convinced that you might have one of your parents might be the same between you and Ronnie, because I'm telling you, you guys come from the same gene pool. It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah, the most common question I get, I probably get it at least every other day now. Am I Ronnie's son or am I Ronnie's brother? Or
say you are, just to keep the myth alive. You know what I mean?
We actually do.
What's going on with Ronnie? Phyllis, we're going to get to you in a minute. Everyone loves to hear the updates on Ronnie. What's going on with Ronnie's? I understand Ronnie had to have another back surgery because one of the screws that they had put into his spinal cord, actually you told me this, into his vertebrae, snapped. And they had to remove all that hardware and put new hardware in. Is that the case?
That's exactly the case. And, I just want to, for the record, a lot of time people, I look on the internet, we see a lot of nasty things and a lot of ugly comments. And a lot of time people just need to be educated as to really what's going on. And so Ronnie, this is his 7th surgery. And this is actually the 2nd surgery on the same thing. So, and what happened was he had a disc that was slipped about a year ago. And the disc was pressed up into his spinal cord, which was pinching a nerve. And it was actually causing his whole leg to go numb, where he didn't feel his feet, he didn't feel his leg. And then it got so bad to where he couldn't really walk. And so, the doctor had to go in there and fix the disc, but in turn they had to put a cage around it and put some screws to keep the cage in place. Well, and that being around his spine like that, Ronnie is so muscular and he is so big that he doesn't require normal screws. It's kind of funny because the doctor kept saying that, oh, we need to order special screws, but I guess they went ahead and tried to do, what they thought would work, and they put the screws in there, and the tension was so strong to where, months after the surgery, the screw just snapped, and when it snapped, it also broke a piece of his spine with it, and so of course, from there. Ronnie went to Russia, and he came back from Russia, and it was like, I kind of had tears in my eyes just having to deal with it every day, and watching him, in such pain. But Ronnie's the type of person that he'll be in pain, and he will not tell you. He would just say, "Hey, it's all right," And so, that was what this surgery was about. They had to go in there, remove that broken screw and even the cage along with it, and and replace it with new screws, new hardware, and get him back to normal. And this is supposed to be the last surgery, but like I said initially, with the comments and everything, a lot of people think that Ronnie, oh, he had his hips replaced because he was squatting 800 pounds. And actually, he had a double hip replacement, and that was actually the year before last. And those hips were replaced due to arthritis. He has an arthritic genetic, and his brother's actually scheduled to go in and have the same hip replacement that Ronnie had because of his arthritis. And the arthritis had just gotten so bad, and they didn't have any other option but to go on there and replace it. And so none of these injuries really had anything to do with Ronnie's training or anything. Although, I'm sure that, the way we train, in any event is going to kind of, solidify things or make sure that, at one point you're going to have a surgery if you have already existing conditions like any arthritic problem. So, I'm not going to take away from the heavy lifting, but I don't want people out there to, get the idea that Ronnie, he was out there lifting weight and, he broke his back and,
But Cory, you know what the truth of the matter is? Every single person out there would trade their position in life right now to have 8 Mr. Olympia wins and to have the pictures of what Ronnie looked like when he was in his prime. So people are just, negative Nellies. They're sore losers. They like to see people who succeed fall at some point because it validates their own inadequacy. And that's the truth of the matter. And it's sad that people have to do that, but it happens in Hollywood all the time. They love to see the guy who's on top fall to the bottom. And then, you know what? People love to see a good comeback, too. So I'm sure when Ronnie comes back and he gets back to the gym and starts training again, people will be like, wow, yeah, Ronnie's back. So the same people that hate you love you, 10 minutes later. And that's just, that's life, unfortunately. But let's get to you. Let's talk about last year's Arnold Classic. You broke the top 6. You really, I think, really made an impact for the first time. People started really saying, hey, this guy has got the talent to really be a great 212 bodybuilder. I think you could be a great open bodybuilder if you really wanted to. Talk to us a little bit about what that 6th place meant last year and what your mindset is going into this year's event.
The 6th place finish last year, I was very, I was ecstatic. I mean, just first of all, to be on that stage, with some of the best in the world and, to be considered among them. So it was an overall overwhelming, great feeling for me. My mindset last year, I put a lot into that show to get ready for it. I don't know if most people know, but I stayed with Ronnie. I lived with Ronnie for that whole contest prep, and we just put everything we had into it. And so that there would be no stones unturned, and I believe it paid off. Sixth place, that was my debut, and I believe that I'm just getting better and better, and that's the mindset that I want to keep. Is I want to be better this year than I was last year, and next year I want to be better than I am this year, and every year I just want to make that constant progression. And so this year's contest prep was a little bit different, being that Ronnie had his surgery. So I didn't live with him like I normally would. I do have a room in his house, so yeah. So but this prep was a little bit different. Our approach was a little bit different. I talked with my wife and Ronnie, and even Ronnie's business partner, the co-owner of Ronnie Coleman Signature Series, and we talked, and I think we just wanted to make sure that this show, I didn't take fun out of life, and I just kind of not take things so serious. We got to always remember, it is a selfish sport. It is about sacrifice, but at the same time, you don't want to miss the roses, and the daisies, if you will, along the way.
How's your diet? Does Ronnie actually help you with the diet and all that stuff?
Interestingly enough, I have every note. I have Ronnie's journal for every Olympia and the Arnold.
Right.
Everything that Ronnie did, from if he did a jump rope or a push up, I got the note. Whatever he put in, whatever supplement he took, whatever food he ate, and of course, Chad Nichols put that together for him. Well, what we did, we over the past few years, we've just taken that what Chad Nichols put together for Ronnie, and we kind of reformulated it to what works for me.
Right.
However, I'm still learning. You learn your body. I'm not like a lot of these guys, man. This is a science, and when people say it's a science, it is, and I'm not exactly a scientist.
Well, you know what? The knock against you, the criticism against you, is that you consistently have not been able to nail your conditioning. You've got tons of muscle. You got great shape. Everyone sees the talent there, but you're not bringing the level of conditioning that I think the judges would like to see, which is the shredded glutes and the dry, hard look. My theory, now that you tell me that you're using Ronnie's journals, you're not pouring Masterpiece barbecue sauce all over everything, are you?
I didn't do it this time.
Good. That'll screw you up.
But
Only Ronnie can get away with that. You know that.
Yeah. He did, and it was a hard diet, but with the exception of the barbecue sauce, and like I said, we're learning, and that was one of the differences that I wanted to do or change from last year's show to this year's prep. We took the barbecue sauce out, and also I wasn't drinking as much Crystal Light as normal. Things like that. Just some minor tweaks. My cardio is a little different this time as well. I didn't have to do as much. So I mean, there's just a few different things that we've tried. And like I said, I'm just learning.
What do you weigh on stage, Cory?
I weighed on stage, I think, about 206.
Okay, so you got room to grow into the class still.
Yes.
How tall are you?
5'7" on a good day.
All right. Well, you're perfectly made for this class, obviously. So, and like I said, with another 5, 7, 8 pounds of muscle, you're going to be super dangerous in that class. I think you're one of the few guys who can challenge a Flex Lewis and a Jose Raymond at your best, because you do have that freaky shape and your waist is tiny. What has been the judges' feedback to you over the past couple seasons?
I mean, that's pretty much it. The conditioning, they want me to come in a little drier, and I think that's been my Achilles heel for the this whole journey, and we just kind of have to learn it and time it and get it right. And it's all at the end of the day. That's the real suffering. That's the real suffering. That's the real sacrifice. Uh, is to just do what we have to do to get that conditioning going.
Now, you and I share a very common, unusual interest together. We both love reptiles, and I just learned about that from you, that you were into them a couple months ago. And ironically, you've purchased 2 baby ball pythons for me recently, but you got a nice collection you're building up of your own. How did you get into reptiles, and where did that interest come from?
Well, I mean, I've had it since, man, I can't even remember, probably about 4 or 5 years old. I'd have lizards and whatever I can catch in the desert, of course, and if I can steal it from a pet store, I would back then. And so, my mom would come into the room, and I'd have, sections of my room closed off. One for reptiles, one for amphibians, and one for insects. And she just let it be for a while, but I mean, I've always been around it. I've always loved it. But somewhere along that line, I had a rough childhood as well, so I lost that passion. Well, I didn't really lose the passion, but I just kind of, it kind of got suppressed somewhere, and where, by the time I was in my, 20s, I really didn't have a real interest for reptiles. I mean, if I saw them at a pet store or something, I'd say, yeah, but I didn't really want to purchase anything. And my sons, they're just like I was. I have 4 children, and three young, 3 of the little boys. They're all into reptiles, man. They love it, and so they wanted me to buy them a snake. So I bought them a snake one day, and consequently, the snake died. So I had to follow up with something else they wanted, and and in buying them those animals, it kind of just resparked or rebirthed that long-lived passion that was inside of me. And since then, man, I've been on the road, man. I'm living the high life now. This is it.
Python recently, which those
Yeah,
snakes can grow over
yeah,
20 feet. I mean, that's going to be a big snake one day.
yeah. That's my favorite. Actually, my wife and I were just having this conversation. I got the retic, and man, I just have fell in love with it. I mean, it's a vicious little thing, but it is so puppy dog, man. It loves. As soon as I walk by the enclosure, he looks up at me, and he comes to the, he comes to the glass, and he wants to, see if I'm going to get him.
You got to handle those a lot. You know why? Because they're face biters, the retics. You want to get them really tame, so when he gets bigger, that thing's not going to whack you in the head. Matter of fact, I was cleaning a boa tank out the other day, and the thing was wrapping itself around another tank, and I tried to pull it away, and it got pissed at me, and it actually bit me in the top of the head. So and it wasn't even that big. I can only imagine what a retic would feel like, doing that. So.
Yeah. I try to handle all of mine pretty regularly. In fact, since I got the retic, I haven't left them alone really. And I know people say not to do that, but I just can't help it, man. I did leave them alone all day yesterday because it was feeding day.
Right, you got to do that.
And, so that was about it. But I'm actually about to take them out here soon. And
we just put a video up, so everyone got to see it. Johnny pulled a video from your Facebook or Instagram, so we did get to see the snake. And it is retics are beautiful. They got some great colors, but like I said, they do get very big. Let's take a step back. First of all, you have 3 sons. It's pretty ironic. Most bodybuilders don't have sons; they have girls. Ronnie's got what, like 7 girls or something like that, or 6 girls?
Yeah, eight girls.
8 Olympias and 8 girls. You got 3 sons. I'm sure he's very jealous of that.
Yeah, I got 3 sons and 1 daughter, and it is, and that's something that comes up quite often in a conversation among other comrades. Most bodybuilders don't have large families or lots of sons, and for that matter. But it's just, I guess, just the way it is.
Sure.
For me, I'm a big family man, so I spend a lot of time with the family and doing a lot of family stuff, with my kids and my wife, and so we're just, they're actually my number one fans.
That's the way it's got to be, Cory. Let's take a step back. You mentioned earlier that you had a rough childhood and upbringing. You want to take us back and tell us a little bit about what went on early in your life?
Yeah, well, for my childhood was basically my dad was, he was a pimp. He was a drug dealer. Um, he was the street kingpin. And a lot of the nature that comes with that is I was exposed to a lot at that early age, and I seen things as a child that no one else should have to see. No other child should. Other kids, man, they were out at the playground playing or riding big wheels, and you know
We lost Cory for a second on the crescendo of his story there. Can we get him back, Johnny? All right, well, Cory was telling us about his upbringing. It's funny because all bodybuilders come from different walks of life, and I always find it fascinating to see where people came from and who they became. Some people come from terrible beginnings and become terrible people. Other people come from terrible beginnings and become great people. And I think that's what should be celebrated, really, when you think about what makes a good person and a good bodybuilder. I think Cory's got a lot of character. He's been through a lot, obviously, and he's one of these guys that will never give up. And I think that's why he will ultimately be successful. And Ronnie Coleman, it could be said the same could be said of him. I mean, a lot of people didn't think that this was going to be a guy who was going to be a successful pro, much less Mr. Olympia, much less maybe the greatest bodybuilder of all time. So it's interesting to see the roots of where people come from. Some people have charmed childhoods, some people don't. Let's go back to Cory. I think we got him back here, and let's find out. Cory, you were telling us about some kids were out in the playground playing with baseball, and you were what were you witnessing?
Yeah, so I was watching my dad, lots of drugs around the house, lots of drugs and naked women, and just that lots of money, stacks of money everywhere, and so that was what I thought was normal. It ended up being, as I was growing up, it turned out to be messed up, because when other kids would talk about, they got this toy for Christmas or something, and I'm over there talking about, what a dime piece is, and so, it just had a big effect on me. And probably when I was about 12 years old, I ran away from home, and in Las Vegas is where I grew up. There was a street downtown Las Vegas called Fremont, and that's where they cleaned it up now. So if anyone goes to the Olympia or whatever, or USA, and they go down Fremont Street, you're seeing lots of lights and glamour, but that's not the way it was back then. Back then it was where all the hustlers go, the pickpocketers, the prostitutes, the pimps, the drug dealers, the drug addicts, the foreigners, everyone. That was like the hub for crime, so to speak. And it was a neutral zone because it wasn't claimed by any certain territory or neighborhood. So I ran away and I lived down there for a short period of time. But in doing so, I did what came natural to me. I sold drugs, and I'd gotten into lots of trouble. And of course, in Las Vegas, gangs are big out there. So, I ran with the gang out there, and I did, what youthful. It seemed normal to me, but and youthful, but there wasn't anything good about it. And I got in lots of trouble, and man, I mean, I did so many wrong turns, and until I had to finally make a decision to make a right turn. And ever since then, here we are 20 years later, man. I've been on the straight and narrow, and I've been blessed, man.
Oh, Cory, what was the monumentous thing that happened? Something had to happen to you that said you said to yourself, you know what? I'm going to either die or I'm going to get out of here. What was that event?
Well, it was several things. It just the fact that I couldn't succeed in doing what I was doing. The police, they took $150,000 cash money from me. one day, and they didn't. At that time, I was 19, and they took the money from me, and they didn't report it. Um, but they did, they did arrest me. They gave me all these charges or what have you, and I just kept going back and forth, and um, you know, uh, it got to the point where I had so many enemies. So many. You can only do so many bad things to people before people want to get you. And so I had people wanting to get me lined up all the way around the corner and down the street, and I didn't know who to trust. And um, my friends were dying. My best friend died in my arms.
Like,
Several
would you guys have like shootouts and stuff like that, with people firing guns at you and stuff like that?
was a normal thing. There was shootout. One time, a guy took my gun from me. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time and a little drunk, and we got drunk, and by the time I grabbed my gun, he took it from me, and they knocked me out, and I woke up and my gun was in my face. And so that could have been it. There
Yeah,
were so many times where I should be dead. I should have died, but the purpose. I believe the purpose in life, wasn't fulfilled yet, and
sure.
so now, like I say, made that change, and I got my wife, I got my kids, and I'm seeing things today that I never in a million years would have thought that this would have been possible.
Corey, how do you go from slinging drugs on the street and shooting guns? Like, what do you go get a job at the supermarket? I mean, where do you go from there? How do you get out of that lifestyle and start over again? What did you do?
Well, really, it's just kind of like it was a God thing. It had nothing to do with me. Obviously, some things in my mindset had to change. I had to be willing to humble myself and take orders from another person. But I learned a long time ago, you can either take orders from people in prison or you can take orders from people on your job.
Good point. Very good point.
And so, it didn't really bother me. The only thing was, it made it a little difficult to try to find a job. But, after a while, all the money in the world, it didn't satisfy me. And, I was content. My first job was at Walmart, making minimum wage. I think it was $8 an hour at the time or something. And I mean, I was content just working and being a regular person. And I didn't have to look over my shoulder every day. And, I had a bed to come home to, and, I didn't have to worry about running from the law.
That's a good point, But at some point, you got bit by the iron bug, the ability to, and you saw you had an ability to put muscle on. And where did that come from? What was who introduced you to the weights?
I got sentenced to a youth correction facility, and I was 14 years old. And they told me the only way that I can stay out, if I stayed out of trouble, they would let me lift weights. And so I said, okay, I'll stay out of trouble. And there was a couple of gentlemen in there that kind of knew their way around the gym, and I just watched what they do, and they kind of grafted me in a little bit. And I noticed that I was a little stronger than my peers, and my body developed a little different. So ever since then, it's kind of been like something that was always there, but not visible.
You certainly nurtured that gift in you, and you're an inspiration, because a lot of people think that people think they got a bad life. I mean, you gotta have the worst teenage, early childhood years of anyone. I mean, like you said, you could have been dead at any moment. You didn't know 1 minute to the next if you were going to make it. And look where you are now. I mean, with a family, and you're a pro bodybuilder, and you're doing so well, working for the Ronnie Coleman Signature Series now. I'm very, very happy you were honest and shared that story with us, because I think you will inspire a lot of people who are listening out there.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. It's just, I don't mind being transparent if it's going to help someone out.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you could have get any more transparent than you just were, and I want to thank you for that. And keep the retic pictures coming my way. And I think I'm going to have some cool new snakes this spring summer. When they all hatch out, I'll have to send you some pictures. I'm sure you'll want to add to your collection because, as we know in the reptile world, you can never have too many snakes, right?
Oh man, my wife knows, she's right here. She'll testify that I'm waiting on those hatches to come, man. So as soon as they happen, tell me before you tell everybody else.
Oh, you get the first dibs, absolutely. And we will see you in 2 weeks at the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. Best of luck up there on that 212 stage.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we're out of time now. I'm getting a signal from the peanut gallery. What is that? Oh, that's right. I have to remind people because tonight at 7:30 we're going to have the one and only Max Charles live with, and then right after that at 8 o'clock we will have Ben Pekulski. That's right, the Pac-Man Ben Pekulski. So you guys are not going to want to miss that. This is all our coverage here on RX Muscle's Iron Road to the Arnold Classic, sponsored by SciTech Nutrition. Check them out at scitechnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you later tonight.